I think you start us out.
You were going to say we were back.
Well, we're back.
Man, we're back.
Yeah, we're back. We're going to change up the format.
Yep.
You nicely told me last time it didn't work.
I didn't say anything.
The
people spoke.
The people spoke and said the episode with Bobby was the best episode we've had. More banter, more talk about church leadership, less of my teaching.
Your teaching's really good. I think to speak on behalf of the people, I think what I can help slow down. Your content is so dynamic that we just got to slow it down a little bit. It's like I am the 1.5 speed. I don't just run at 1.5 speed. I can slow down the podcast to 1.5. But
well, I hope people like this format, but I hope they don't get used to it, because here's the one consistency with our life, and we've done this for years together. It's going to change.
It's going to change.
But we'll try this.
We change with the times. We're current. We're relevant.
We're cool. We're pretty hip.
It's cool. The cool word.
I think cool is it right now.
I love.
Well, I think we should start this thing.
Yes. Welcome to Made for More. I'm super excited about this particular season. It's something that's near and dear to my heart is the leader.
Yep.
And obviously anyone and everyone is welcome to listen. Share this with all your friends. But really, we feel kind of called for this particular season to really focus on the leader.
Yep.
And obviously, there's a lot of you that are going to be listening that are church leaders, whether you're a senior pastor or a staff pastor, a campus pastor, maybe even an intern wanting to do full-time ministry.
Yep.
However, these principles are going to apply to anything, whether you're a stay-at-home mom running your household, or if you're a business owner of a large company or a small company or an entrepreneur. But I'm excited to be able to have kind of a more singular focus.
Yeah.
And really kind of hopefully help a lot of people.
I think it's going to help people, and it's so cool. We were at a conference yesterday and had some church leaders come up to us and like, "Where's your podcast? You haven't put one out in a few months." And okay, maybe one or two people said that, but it wasn't like the masses weren't talking to us and begging us for this. But what I do think we're going to do is we're going to really get super focused on helping leaders, especially church leaders. And we're going to do this in seasons, which is new to me. Yeah. I've never done the season approach. Kind of explain what the season approach is.
Yeah, so the idea of over the next 8 weeks. Today we're really going to start with like a high-level overview of really what the next several weeks will look like. So every week after today, which they're going from monthly to weekly, by the way, which is...
It's a big deal.
Which is exciting. It's like that's something that we feel like we wanted to do. But the following weeks after today are going to be more of a deep dive of these kind of high level topics that we're going to discuss today. So, which I'm excited. Today we'll just dive in and kind of generally speak about this idea, because the reality is that God's called each of us to lead something, whether it's a large team or a small team. And we've just noticed throughout the years, and I know there's some practical examples that we can even give from even past, even other industries, but everything is so crucial on the health of the leader.
Yep. And that's going to be our subject. So today we're going to give 6 areas that every healthy leader is focusing on, give kind of the overview of it. And then for the next 6 weeks after this, we'll talk all in detail about this. But I'm honored to have you, Bobby, as our co-host. So that's a big deal. So this is a new approach, and we'll do this season. We'll see how it goes. But we want to know what you're thinking about it. So shoot me a message, shoot me a DM on Instagram. Let us know on YouTube how you feel about it. But this idea of this whole subject, the health of the leader, came from 2022. God gave me the word of the year for my life was health. And don't worry about getting the church bigger. Don't worry about expanding. Worry about getting everything healthy. Yeah. And I think it was strategic. The Lord was really focused on it. And it reminded me of a documentary I saw, came out last year, and of the great Ronnie Coleman. So for people that don't know who Ronnie Coleman is, tell them who he is.
Ronnie Coleman would be equivalent to the Tom Brady of football. Love or hate Tom Brady, he's the most winningest.
How does anybody hate Tom Brady?
It'd be, it's haters gonna hate, right?
They're gonna hate.
But no, he's the most winningest coach in football. So Ronnie Coleman would be equivalent to that. Yep. Obviously, when you think bodybuilding, you think Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you follow bodybuilding, obviously there's a lot of names. But Ronnie Coleman, 7-time Super Bowl champion. Mr. Olympia would be like their Super Bowl. And he won that year over year. Bodybuilding's all about aesthetics. So
that's what I didn't realize.
He built a huge body.
Well, that's what I was watching this documentary. I didn't know anything about bodybuilding. Yeah. And so I'm watching this thing and I'm just getting super inspired.
Yeah.
And we're kind of the same in this thing. We'll watch a documentary and we're like, all right, we're all in.
Yeah.
One time I gave up, all vegetables for a while and only went meat. And then one time I gave up all meat and went only vegetables.
There
Just
you go.
depends on the documentary.
Yeah.
But this is all inspired. I'm watching this guy and I'm like, this guy's jacked. I can do this, even though I'm 6'3" and lanky.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I can do this. But then I watch the end and it's super sad to watch this guy's life, because this guy, he basically built his life on what looks good and the aesthetics of it. But I mean, he can't walk across a living room right now.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
very
Ronnie,
sad.
if you're watching this, we love you. And thanks for letting us use your life as an illustration. But that was really what shocked me and it kind of brought me to this idea that you can be a leader that looks good, that's not good. Like,
For sure.
You can be someone who's got the look down, really focused on the aesthetics of leadership, but you're not good. And that's what I really wrestled with, because I've always been a CrossFitter for 8 years or so now. I was super out of shape, went into CrossFit. We talked about that on another podcast. But when I did that, I realized that CrossFit is not going to make you the aesthetically perfect human being, even though some of the top dogs are.
Yes.
But CrossFit's just going to keep your heart healthy. And it reminded me, I was probably 14, 15 years old. Remember working out in this gym, and there was this guy, and he was so jacked. I mean, he was so in shape. And so I remember going, and I was so scrawny, so small. And I remember going to him like, how do I work out? And he was showing me different movements to, get me big. And then I went on a trip with my family for a couple of weeks, came back, and the gym was all grieving, because they're grieving because this guy who everybody loved and admired drops dead of a heart attack walking out to his car after leaving the gym one day.
After leaving the gym. Wow.
And it was shocking, because what I realized at that moment is you can look good on the outside, but be messed up on the inside. And what a good depiction of the world and leadership today, especially church leaders.
Yeah.
That we've got a lot of church leaders that are more focused on their outfits than they are on their heart, when they're focused on what their appearance is and then what's going on the inside of them. So we're going to take this moment and we're going to really focus this season on getting the leader healthy. The phrase in the scriptures that was kind of my driver all year long was in 3 John 1, where it's just a real challenge. I pray that you may enjoy good health. And that word is like holistic health in your life, and that it may go well with you, even as your soul is getting along well.
Yes.
So this whole idea that, man, we're going to make sure that you're experiencing health in every area of your life, because there is one clear connection, and I want you to get this, that the healthiest organizations have the healthiest leadership.
For sure.
So that's our desire.
No, and I think it's good for people to know that this isn't a new idea. So the Ronnie Coleman illustration is helpful to know that a lot of times, which since we can remember, the scriptures have told us that church leaders, you look back at the scriptures of even Jesus's challenge to the Pharisees, to the Sadducees, the idea of the whitewashed tombs. It's like there has been a tendency for leaders to always think, again, it might not have been the intention, but the gravitational pull of the world system is that we think on the exterior. We think and call that pride, whatever the underlying issue is. So all that to say, it's not that, because we're in 2023 and we have social media. No, Jesus challenged the church leaders of his day with the same idea that to be a healthy leader, don't just think about the exterior. It actually has to kind of come from within. And there's 2 leaders that I really love, and whether or not people subscribe to their messages are their thoughts and their principles is neither here nor there. You can't neglect to see that Pastor Craig Rochelle with Life Church has built an incredible church that is very, very Christ-centered. And then I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan. Now, I'm not asking everyone to follow his baby steps and all that, but from a leadership point of view, that Dave Ramsey, as the leader of his organization, has not only led an organization that has grown. I mean, he's transitioned the idea of how do you involve your family? His kids would have been like babies when he's starting this business from a card table in his house. So think about the church planter. You had a baby when you planted the church. Now you have 5 kids that are all growing. So, and the one piece, it's not just their exterior. It's the fact that they have remained healthy. They have healthy marriages. they have healthy relationships with their kids, all of the things we're going to discuss. But just the idea that we have to focus in a world where it's very easy to have a gravitational pull to what the exterior of my life looks like and the platform that I'm putting out there. It really, that's all, not that it's wrong to have an exterior that's good, but only if the foundations of the inner life is really well balanced and in the right place.
You're so right in that. And I was with Craig Rochelle last week. We were able to ask him some questions, and so we asked him, like, what is it? What's the secret to your life and your the way that you've been so successful? And he's like, people would be shocked at how boring my life is.
Yeah.
How boring my daily routines are. He just came out with a new book, and he's like, I wanted to title the book "Boring Your Way to Success." Because everything in your life is just boring, but if you do it well and consistent,
the consistency.
He's like, it's the consistent. You take your wife on a date, you spend time with God in the morning, you exercise, you eat somewhat clean. He's like, you write every single day. It's not overwhelming. It's you do the things that nobody else does, and you get the results that everybody wants.
Yes.
And so we're going to talk about a lot of that today.
No, absolutely.
Because we're going to give some really boring challenges to your life. But I'm telling you, it's. I love how you say it. It's not basic. It's
foundational.
It's foundational.
Yes, because we all want the ideas that are like, we want the new idea, and it's like, actually, there's the scriptures tell us there's nothing new under the sun. It's actually doing what's the famous quote? It's like doing the ordinary things on a regular, consistent basis.
Yep.
That lead to extraordinary results. It's not this like, oh, how do I this massive like shooting star idea that's going to take my leadership to the next level. It's like, actually, if we pause and really focus on some foundational principles on how we're doing as a leader, then naturally our teams are going to be better, the organization's going to be better, our marriage is going to be better, whatever you fill in the blank. Like everything gets better when we get better.
It does. And Paul gives a challenge that has been such a challenge for me, and I keep going through it over this last year, where he talks about it in 1 Corinthians. He's like, don't you know, like in a race, all runners run, but not everybody gets the prize. So a lot of people start this thing. Not everybody wins this thing.
Yeah.
He says, like, you need to run, you need to live in your life in such a way that you're going to get the prize. So what our goal in this is that we're going to help you get the prize. We're going to help you do well so that you can win in whatever God's called you to win at. And then he says this phrase that I think is so crazy. He says, everybody who competes goes into strict training.
Yeah.
Now, we did a marathon last year.
Yes, we did.
We did not go into strict training.
Unfortunately, we didn't subscribe to the full marathon training.
We did not. And my wife just makes fun of me. She's like, you are the worst. Like, there was zero training to this.
So I don't want to take us too far off, but there's one quick thing, just because I think it's a funny story, and maybe
I
some,
think it'd be fun.
Get a little bit of laughs in here. Is there was a moment in the training where, again, and marathon training is like 5 or 6 days a week for those of you that, I know many of you guys might be like triathletes and all that stuff. But it's 5 to 6 days a week. We were running on average about once a week.
About once a week, and we just add a mile every week.
Yeah, and it was a long run. And so as we got into the like teen miles, half marathon plus, where that's our long run, you start using these gel packs, right?
We didn't know that.
Yes, which applies to leadership. So we're going somewhere here. But the idea there's Goo is like the famous brand. There's all these other brands. And I remember we go to the store and they're like, hey, this brand actually usually upsets people's stomachs. Like, have you transitioned? And we're like, our bodies are built for this. Yep. The amount of Checkers burgers, the amount of filet of fishes that we've been eating, we can handle the goop. But it was just a reminder of like, we were focused on the exterior.
Let me give one part of that. So I didn't know about the goo. I didn't even know that it even existed. We went out one time, I'll never forget this. And I was like, we're going to run 16 miles. We hadn't even run maybe 12.
Yeah.
We got to the bridge in Tampa. And one of the bridges that goes into Pinellas County, and we ran, and I ran 8 miles straight.
Yeah, that was
without
the worst
stopping.
day of training.
That was the worst day, with zero nutrition, zero water, zero goose, zero anything. I ran 8 miles. We're running, then we turn around, we start running back, and we hit a wall.
A wall, like straight up, like there's nothing to do.
This is not an exaggeration. We tried to run for a mile or two, and we probably walked at easily 5 to 6 miles back. It took us hours. It was like we had church the next day, and I remember it was like midnight by the time I got home because we couldn't get back. And you're on a bridge. You can't Uber. I was trying to Uber.
I know.
So anyway, strict training matters.
It does.
And it kind of showed up in our marathon, but that's another story.
Yeah.
So, and then he says this phrase. I just want to end with this, and then we'll get into some details. He says, I strike a blow to my body, and I make it my slave, so that after I've preached to others, I myself might not be disqualified from the prize. And that's my whole desire. I want to be so healthy in every area of my life. And we're going to give you 6 of them. And we're going to go into detail because I actually think all 6 of these can disqualify the leader.
Yeah.
If you're not healthy in one of these 6. So it's not the whole thing that I thrive in one and I fail in the other ones. The one you fail in is the one that can disqualify you. And it might not disqualify you from ministry or get you fired, but what it can do is it can keep you from your potential of where you're at.
Yes.
So we're going to focus on these, but as we're focusing on these, let me give you this phrase that's crucial. It's like, you can't fix what you don't identify.
Yes, that's so good.
So there's a lot of people that are in this world and they're going, I think I'm okay. No, as we're diving through these 6 areas, especially going into real detail over these next few weeks, please identify. We say the phrase, what's the lowest hole in the bucket?
Yes. I was just thinking about that because that's a visual that I think will be something for us to latch onto. Because what you're saying is good, is that the idea of like, as we look at these categories, it might be like, oh man, I'm thriving in this. Yeah, I'm not as great in that area, but the lowest hole in the bucket. Like,
yep.
You want me to just take
explain it.
The idea, we use this with all of our teams for ministry evaluation, personal evaluation. Imagine you have a bucket, right? And so there's a hole in that bucket. The water is only going to rise to the lowest hole within that bucket. And so it's like, yeah, well, I've got all the vision. I'm a leader with a lot of vision. I'm a leader with, I've got my finances in order or whatever it is. But maybe emotionally or maybe in the way that I treat people, all of these things, they all matter. We're a whole person.
Yes.
It's not like we can pick and choose. And I feel like we're in a day and age, which I know these categories are going to really help us, where we almost allow for there to be deficiencies because of personality. And I'm all about the different personality profiles that are out there, but we almost give excuse for like, oh, that's just me being a blank.
I can't stand that. It is the Enneagram 8 excuse, which we hear all the time. I was literally
thinking about the 8 on the Enneagram.
It drives me nuts.
I love we have some 8s.
We have a lot of 8s on our staff. But what I've told our 8s on our staff is, I'm tired of you using that as an excuse to be mean to people.
Yes.
Like, your personality profile does not give you an excuse to treat people bad.
Yeah.
You've got to understand. First of all, let me just go into the holes in the bucket. Let's be real. We've all got lots of holes in our bucket.
Correct.
My challenge for you is when we hear these 6, and this is what I do with our pastoral team. I brought all of our pastoral team through this, but I also bring all of our new upcoming pastors through these 6. And what I do with them, and as I say, which one are you thriving in right now? Which one's the best? Yeah. But which one is the lowest hole in the bucket?
For sure.
Because there's no point in fixing the third lowest because the water still won't rise.
Correct.
When the lowest one's the one that'll disqualify you.
Yes.
So we have to focus on the one that'll disqualify you. So are we cool giving the 6?
No, absolutely.
All right, we're going to give it a 6. We'll go real broad, and then we'll go into detail. And I think it's important because I put questions with each of these. So we'll start with, which I think is the most important one, is spiritual health. Spiritual health. It's like, what are you doing daily to cultivate your relationship with God? We think everything in life starts with the spiritual. So as your spirit is healthy, so the rest of your life will be healthy. And this is the most important one to me.
For sure.
It's the most important one, not because I'm a pastor, but because I'm a Christian.
Yes.
And as a Christian leader, I can't thrive if my spirit is not thriving.
Yes. This is the foundation of the house.
Yes.
Like, it doesn't matter if you have a great interior design for your master bedroom if you have a faulty foundation. Like, the spiritual, it is the most important piece of this whole puzzle.
Yep. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about intimacy with God. We're talking about our time in God's word. And really challenge you, and that'll be next week's episode, on being a spiritual leader.
Yes.
And I challenge our business leaders on this, but I challenge our pastors too. Like, listen, I love it. I love our org charts. I love our team development. I love our, like, Patrick Lencioni challenges and ideal team player. I love all of that. But it all comes back to the fact we are spiritual leaders. We are spiritual beings with an eternity ahead of us, and we're called to serve God and connect with him. And the whole mission of Christianity can be summed up in the fact that we're called to know God and make him known. And you can't make him known to the world if you don't know him personally. So we're going to start with the spiritual. The second one is huge because we're going to go from the spiritual and we're going to go right into the physical. Now that's a little bit of a challenge for people because most of the time they would go spiritual into a lot of other areas in your life. But here's why I put spiritual second. Because you can't help the world if you're dead.
For sure.
So we need you to be healthy.
Yes.
Physically. And we talked about this on one of our podcasts before, but we'll get into some details of some habits
I love
that I think every Christian leader needs to be part of. I actually asked myself this question. Am I eating, sleeping, and exercising in a way that's going to make me healthy for life? Again, the Ronnie Coleman illustration.
For sure. And I know that one's going to be tricky for some, even when some people hear that. Physical always, people have a perspective like, oh, is that going to be all about CrossFit or working out? And it's not. It feels good to feel good. And the fact that like God, like in the scriptures, there, I mean, we just read one, the idea of like how the physical applies to, like that's a spiritual thing.
Yep.
Like it really, how we treat our bodies, you know, it's like the, and I'm not hating on anyone. Obviously we all have our own issues, but the idea of like the age old statement of like the overweight pastor, like grossly obese pastor calling out some sin in a message when people are listening going like, but isn't gluttony listed in that? You know, it's like,
it is.
And again, I'm not here to criticize. I know people have their own challenges medically, but that's not, I just want people to know that the point of that, when that episode comes out, like actually listen to it. Cause it's not all about just like, building your body up, like in working out.
It's not vanity.
It's holistic.
Yes, it's not vanity. It's longevity. Yes. That's what we're going for. We're going for longevity. We want you to live as long as you can.
That's good.
With as much energy as you can, so you make a big enough difference as you can. So we're going to go from that one to an emotionally healthy leader. And that is crucial. We're going to talk about emotional health, the EQ side of things. And this has been like a super popular talk for years now, where people talk about, there's IQ and there's EQ, but EQ is so crucial. Are you emotionally healthy? And it's like, I remember asking one of our staff members one time, I was like, dude, are you like emotional healthy? And he responded, he's like, I'm fine. And I was like, dude, that's not a statement with that many veins popping out of your neck.
No, it's true.
Of an emotionally healthy person. And what you've gone through in your past affects what you're doing right now. Your upbringing affects who you are right now. There's so much that you've gone through. The hurt that you've walked through affects who you are. And if we don't learn how to deal with our emotions, then we'll tank this thing. And we'll start lashing out at people. We'll start being abusive in our conversations and how we talk. Because there's a lot of leaders. I'm telling you, I think there's more leaders getting disqualified today. It used to be sexual sin and money tanking leaders today, in the past. What I'm finding today is more leaders are being tanked because of emotional lack of health than even the sexual or the financial.
Well, and I love, and we're going to go into a deep dive, but I just want to give a little teaser to that one. It's like the idea, whenever I think about that, this isn't like an official statement, but it's the idea of the Israelites. Like you're out of Egypt, but Egypt isn't out of you. And like the emotions are like so key. Like as we've been in ministry for, into the decades now, you're in rooms with people that are doing it at the highest level over the course of a lot of time. Yep. And you realize what separates good leaders from really great leaders is that they have worked out their emotions.
It's very true. They are emotionally healthy. And so we're going to dive into that one. We go from emotional health to mental health. And mental health is a topic that so many people are talking about today. And I get the focus on anxiety and depression and worry and all those things and bipolar, and there's so many real mental health issues, but that's kind of not the approach I'm going at when I'm talking about mentally healthy. I'm talking about the idea of, is your brain being challenged and are you growing?
Yes.
As a leader, are you focusing on stretching your mind, getting outside of our little sphere of influence and focus group? I'm going to get real, kind of almost controversial in this one, so you'll want to make sure you're a part of it in 4 weeks, because we are not learning today. Yes. We are being indoctrinated today because of whatever circle you're in right now.
Correct.
So you're not actually being stretched. Your mind is, you can live in an environment, you can get ads that you want to get, you can hear all the politics you want to hear, you can believe what you want to believe based off the fact that the algorithm will give it to you.
For sure.
And we're going to talk about mental health.
Yeah.
It's very polarizing in our society. But what I'm finding is leaders are not being stretched to their mind. And I actually had this happen years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago. The church was growing, amazing things happening. And I found myself just kind of stuck mentally. And I was like, what do I do? And that's when I enrolled and got my doctorate. It stretched me and like crazy. But we're going to challenge you. We're going to challenge you on, are you reading materials that are stretching your mind? Are you listening to podcasts that are helping you grow? Are you getting outside of your circle to think, how's the world thinking right now during this time? It's crucial that we get mentally healthy. So that's a big one.
That's
and then
huge.
the week after that, we're going to talk about being socially healthy. And in a world that is ultra isolated, we're going to challenge you to get connected with some friends because you need friends in your life. I'm so grateful for you, Bobby. I'm grateful for the friends in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, just a couple weeks ago, we get on a plane, go hang out with our kids.
With our kids, making those core memories, going to Beach Mountain. So.
Yeah. I mean, it was total ice the whole way down, but it was a blast because it refreshes my soul, like to sit there and go, you've got to have good community in your life. You got to have good friendships. People are more isolated than ever before.
They are.
And they're lonely.
They are.
And I'm telling you, the first thing that God condemned in Scripture was not sin, it was solitude.
Which is massive. Yeah, I think for us to see that and to see that in our world, exactly what you just said, like the socialization is, we're no longer in community.
Yep.
Like we are, we know most people that we've ever known on the planet. We're more connected than we've ever been in terms of engagement, but like actual relationship. I had a lady tell me she was a part of the church, and it was actually really sad. I just want to give this one highlight is she was like, man, it was so, she was in tears as she was telling me. A very, very involved lady in the church, and her battery had died. And she's like, I literally had no one to call.
Wow.
I'm in small groups. My kids go to the youth group. You fill in the blank of all the things. All the boxes were checked. She has all the Facebook friends. She was a little older. Instagram, all that. And it was sad because it's true. And that she's the example of, I would say, the majority these days.
Yep. It is very sad. People are isolated. And God looked at Adam and Eve and said, it is not good. Or he looked at Adam and said, it is not good for man to be alone. Like, we can't do it. People say, it's lonely at the top. And I would say it's lonely at the top if you choose for it to not be socially healthy.
Yes.
And so we're going to challenge the highest level leaders out there today to get into community and how to be socially healthy. And then we're going to close it out with what I think is tanking so many young leaders today, probably more than ever. I know that's like a thing you say when you get into almost your 40s.
Yeah.
But I think it is the reality.
The kids these days. Which I find is people are not financially healthy. Yeah.
And I know that there's people that are 40, 50, 60 that are watching this that need to get their finances more in order. But I really want to focus on especially those who are in their 20s and 30s and go, listen, how you handle your finances now really matters. And how do you get financially healthy? When Katie and I felt called to move to Tampa, we had to quit our jobs. We had to sell our house. We had to do everything that we did to do this. And really, it was God's grace throughout the whole situation. But the reality is we had set ourselves up financially. We had put money in savings. I didn't have a job. My first full year here, I took zero pay from the church because we didn't have any money. There was no pay to take. But we had resources because in our 20s, we moved here at 29 to start the church. And when we moved here, we had set ourselves up for years to be obedient to whatever God had called us to do. So I'm going to talk about getting us financially healthy. So let me just say those 6 again, because here's your homework today. Your homework today is, what is the lowest hole in your bucket? So we start with the spiritual. Do you have that spiritual connection with God? Then we move to the physical. Are you physically in shape? Are you taking care of your body? Number 3, the emotional. Are you emotionally healthy? Are you driven by your emotions or are you controlling them? Number 4, are you mentally healthy? Are you challenging your mind? Are you growing in your mind? The 5th one is, are you socially healthy? Do you have good friends in your life? And the last one, the 6th one, is financially. Are you financially healthy? I had a group of guys that went with me to Chicago, young leaders, while I was preaching a conference up there. And it was so cool to I did this talk with them. And we just sat in the room and we go, okay, let's rank it. Where are you at? And share it with us. And we went around the room and each guy had a different one that was the lowest on their list.
Wow.
And then they put an action item, which if you don't know your action item, we'll give them to you in the next few weeks. Put an action item behind each one to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do to change it.
Yeah.
Because good intentions won't make you healthy.
Correct.
Good action does.
Yes.
So don't just think about it. Put some action behind it, and we'll get you healthy.
I love that. Well, I know today might have felt for some people like a really long trailer to a movie, right? Which is good. Today in itself can kind of stand alone, but I really want the listener to hear that. Go ahead and subscribe, because these areas, whether you're sharing it with your team, whether you're going through it as a leader, we're going to do a deep dive, and we're not just we've spent time, we've prayed through this content, and so make sure and subscribe and listen, and maybe there's some key things that are even going to be shared to people on your team or to people in your sphere of influence for the lowest hole. Like, I think I think very much think about yourself, like in this moment of, don't just like be the leader who's like, my team needs this, right?
Yep.
So definitely think about yourself. But as we go through this, like, share it with your team, like share it with your friends. And we believe it's going to help a lot of people. So we're excited about this this season. Make sure and subscribe. We've got a new episode dropping every single week, and so we're looking forward to the spiritually healthy leader next week.
Absolutely, because you really are. You're made for more.